John Acuff once said, "Don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Comparison doesn't feel like a big deal when it first shows up. It doesn't storm in loud or obvious. It just whispers. It scrolls beside you when you're tired, when you're not where you thought you'd be, when you see someone celebrating a win while you're still learning how to stand. It speaks in the background of your mind, wrapping itself in what looks like admiration but secretly sounds like doubt. And over time, without realizing it, comparison doesn't just steal your joy, it clouds your sense of direction. What started as inspiration quietly turns into self-questioning. Maybe I missed my moment. Maybe I'm not gifted enough. Maybe I'm just behind. But that line of thinking doesn't come from the one who formed you. It doesn't reflect the voice of the God who crafted your timeline, your wiring, your road. That voice belongs to the world, and today you don't have to listen to it anymore. Comparison is the thief of joy and the enemy of purpose. No one wakes up in the morning thinking, "Today I'm going to sabotage my peace by comparing myself to everyone else." It just happens, quietly and repeatedly. It happens when your plans are moving slower than theirs, when their doors open before yours, when you're sitting in silence while their lives seem full of applause. And if you're not careful, you begin measuring the worth of your days by the pace of someone else's journey. Stephen Furtick once said, "Comparison is the fast track to misery. It doesn't build you, it empties you." Not because you lack value, but because comparison always forces you to look outward instead of inward, at your own calling, your own growth, your own faithfulness in the present moment. Comparison is sneaky like that. It shows up as curiosity and leaves you feeling like you're failing. But the truth is, you were never called to their lane. You were never asked to run their race. That applause? It wasn't meant for your ears. That timing? It wasn't designed with your name on it. And that win? It doesn't diminish your worth. It doesn't even speak to it. Sometimes the root of comparison is fear. Fear that you missed something important, that you chose wrong, that you took too long. But Morgan Harper Nichols reminds us you are not behind. You are not late. You are exactly where God wants you to be. What a freeing thought, that even the delays and detours are not proof that you're failing. They're part of the way God builds depth in you. You're not being held back. You're being held in place until the road ahead is ready. Or more truthfully, until you're ready to walk it. Comparison often hides itself in productivity. It tells you to work harder, post more, push faster. It tricks you into thinking that visibility equals value. But the Bible in Galatians 6-4 offers a different perspective. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. Not in pride that inflates ego, but the quiet kind of pride that says, "I showed up with integrity. I gave what I had today. I stayed on my road." Walking your own path doesn't mean you'll never notice other people. It means you learn how to bless their journey without cursing your own. It means you can celebrate someone else's breakthrough and still believe yours is coming. It means refusing to water down your joy because someone else got there first. It means learning that joy isn't a pie to be divided. It's a well that overflows when you're content with where God has placed you. Here's what comparison will never show you: the cost of someone else's success, the pain behind their smile, the late nights, the breakdowns, the doubt. All you see is the edited version, the celebration reel, and trying to measure your worth against someone else's highlight tape will only lead to frustration. God doesn't compare you to others. He sees you entirely in context. He sees the battles no one else saw, the choices you made when it would have been easier to quit. He sees the ways you chose love when anger would have felt better, the small steps no one applauded but still mattered. He sees your heart when all you see is delay. So when comparison shows up, and it will, talk back to it with truth, with scripture, with silence if you must, but don't let it have the final word, because here's the deeper truth. God never created you to compete. He created you to carry light into dark spaces, to carry faith when it doesn't make sense, to carry grace into places that feel undeserving, and you can't carry all that and still try to keep up with someone else. Let today be the day you pause the scrolling, silence the inner critic, and return your eyes to your own path, because what you're building right now, slowly, faithfully, quietly, is still sacred. It is still becoming, and heaven is not impressed by how fast you go. Heaven is moved by the fact that you keep going. Maybe the next time you see someone succeed, you bless them. You whisper a prayer over their journey and then turn gently back to yours. Because theirs is not yours to carry. And yours? Yours is not small. It is not late. It is not second best. It is simply sacred because the hands that wrote it are holy. You were not made to run someone else's race. You were made to walk the road God gave you. And when you stay faithful to that road, no matter how winding or slow, you won't just arrive somewhere good. You'll arrive somewhere meant for you. Your journey is holy, even if it's hidden. There's something sacred about what isn't seen, something unshakably pure about the seasons where your life feels small, where no one is clapping, where no one is even looking. It's in those seasons that God tends to do his deepest work, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, not in the celebration, but in the silence. The world might look at your hidden season and call it failure, but heaven calls it formation. Jeff Goins once said, "Obscurity is not failure, it's preparation." The unseen days, the ordinary faithfulness, the prayers whispered into quiet rooms, they aren't wasted. They are woven into something eternal. You are not being punished when things are slow. You are being prepared. Sometimes what feels like delay is God making space within you. Space for humility, space for maturity, space for dependence. Ecclesiastes 3:11 reminds us he has made everything beautiful in its time. Not rushed, not forced, beautiful, and in its time. But that waiting can stretch you. It tests your trust. It exposes how much you've tied your worth to your results. The longer you go unseen, the more tempted you are to prove your value, to announce what you're working on, to reach for recognition. But the holy road doesn't need a headline. It needs obedience. That's all. Maybe God is doing something in you right now that requires privacy. Lisa Bevere said it best. Sometimes God hides you so he can heal you. Because healing often happens best in quiet, in stillness, when no one is watching, when you stop performing and just start being. This hidden season, it's not a waste. It's not a punishment. It's not a sign you're off course. It's a divine appointment. A time for your roots to go deep so that later, when the winds come, you won't be easily moved. No one applauds the roots, but they are what hold everything steady. If you find yourself in that quiet place right now where your steps feel unseen and your efforts unnoticed, you are in good company. Many of the greatest movements of God began in silence. Jesus himself lived in obscurity for 30 years before stepping into public ministry. 30 years of quiet faithfulness. 30 years of learning, growing, praying. If God did not rush his own son, why do we think he will rush our becoming? The road you're walking is holy, not because it's popular, but because it's his. Because it is lined with opportunities to love when no one sees, to forgive when it's easier to be bitter, to show up when you feel like quitting. That kind of journey might not go viral, but it moves heaven. So don't underestimate what's happening in the places no one claps for. Don't resent the days that feel too small to matter, because your quiet steps still echo in eternity. Every morning you rise in faithfulness, every task you complete in love, every time you choose integrity over image. You are planting seeds, and in time, those seeds will grow. Stay where God has placed you. Stay in your lane, not because it's easy, but because it's yours. The more you lean into that truth, the more peace will settle in. You won't feel the need to chase visibility. You'll simply desire to be faithful. And that shift in focus, that's what marks spiritual maturity. No one may see your progress right now, but God does. He sees the battles you fought in silence. He sees the courage it takes to stay put when you want to run. He sees how you're choosing hope when cynicism would be easier, and that matters deeply. Let today be a turning point. Let it be the moment you stop doubting the worth of your unseen work. Let it be the day you stop calling hidden seasons wasted time. You are not invisible. You are in the middle of being built, and that process deserves reverence, not rush. When you can trust that God is moving even when you're not being seen, that's when you begin to truly rest. That's when you stop needing the world's applause to validate what heaven has already approved. The next time the silence feels heavy, breathe in this truth. You are not forgotten. You are being fortified. Your journey, quiet as it may be, is still covered in divine fingerprints. And one day, when the timing is right, what you built in private will reflect the faith you chose to grow there. Keep walking. Keep trusting. Keep sowing in the soil of hiddenness, because the harvest will come. And when it does, it won't just bless you. It will bless everyone who watched you stay faithful when it would have been easier to quit. What looks like delay might be divine design. Sometimes what looks like a pause is actually a plan. It's hard to believe that when your prayers seem unanswered, your plans are unfolding slower than expected, and your dreams feel suspended in midair. It's even harder when you look around and watch other people being promoted, celebrated, or recognized, while your season feels still, uncertain, or stalled. You may not say it aloud, but you feel it. Maybe something's wrong with me. Maybe I took a wrong turn. Maybe I'm too late. But what if delay isn't denial? What if it's design? There's a quiet beauty in learning to trust the unseen work of God. It takes courage to believe that what feels like waiting is actually a sacred unfolding. That just because you haven't seen the fruit yet doesn't mean the roots aren't growing strong beneath the surface. One anonymous quote captures this well. God's timing is always perfect. Never early, never late. It takes a little patience and a whole lot of faith. And those two things, patience and faith, are often stretched the most when you feel like nothing is moving. The waiting room of life can be the hardest place to stay faithful. You're still showing up, still doing the work, but with no guarantee of how or when the breakthrough will come. It's tempting to rush, to force something to happen just so you can feel like you're progressing. But not everything that grows fast is built to last, and not everything that delays is lost. The prophet Habakkuk spoke directly into this ache. He wrote, "For the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end. It will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come. It will not delay." Habakkuk 2:3. That verse doesn't promise a painless wait. It promises a purposeful one. It will surely come. Not on your timeline, but on God's, whose timing is never random and always rooted in love. Delay is one of heaven's gentlest tools for shaping the heart. When you want the outcome more than the process, delay teaches you to lean on God instead of the result. When you want clarity but receive silence, delay deepens your dependence on the one who sees what you can. Christine Caine once said, "Delay is not denial, it's development." Those words sound simple, but they carry profound truth. Sometimes the doors haven't opened yet because what's waiting on the other side needs a stronger, deeper, more grounded version of you to walk through it. God loves you too much to give you something before you're ready to carry it well. What if the delay in your story is actually God building endurance in you? Maybe what feels like standing still is Him fortifying the muscles of your spirit, training you to trust, to persevere, to wait well. And the longer you wait with open hands instead of clenched fists, the more room He has to move in ways you didn't expect. Think of the seasons of your life as layers being poured. You wouldn't build a house without a foundation. You wouldn't climb a mountain without strengthening your legs. And you wouldn't plant a vineyard without letting the soil be prepared. The delay isn't wasted time, it's foundational time. Even Jesus waited 30 years of hidden preparation for 3 years of public ministry, 30 years of daily, ordinary, obedient living, of listening, learning, praying, helping, away from the spotlight. God didn't rush the Son of God. He won't rush your process either. It's easy to want the harvest. It's harder to be faithful when the soil still looks empty. But if you stop watering the ground just because you don't see sprouts yet, you might miss the very season when the roots are anchoring themselves for the long haul. Sometimes God is protecting you with delay, protecting you from moving too fast, from accepting too little, from entering doors that look good but aren't good for you. The pause you're resenting might actually be a mercy you haven't understood yet. You may not realize it now, but hindsight often reveals the kindness in divine delay. The jobs you didn't get, the relationships that didn't work out, the timing that felt all wrong, they often turn out to be the very moments where God was guarding you, redirecting you, maturing you. Sometimes the no you feared was actually a not yet wrapped in love. And here's something else to consider. God works outside of time, but He moves within it with perfect precision. You don't need to worry that you've fallen behind some invisible schedule. When you walk with Him, you are always on time, even when it feels like you're late. So, what do you do while you wait? You live fully, deeply, faithfully. You don't put your life on pause just because your dreams feel delayed. You don't stop showing up in love, in service, in growth. You don't let waiting become withering. Instead, you lean into becoming. While you wait, you build character. You nurture relationships. You learn to find joy in the small and holy moments that exist outside of achievement. You live in such a way that when the door finally opens, you don't walk through it needy for validation, but grateful, grounded, and ready to steward what God has entrusted to you. You start asking better questions. Not when will it happen, but who am I becoming while I wait? Waiting can either make you bitter or it can make you better. It can build resentment or it can build resilience. The choice is always yours. This is not a call to passivity. It's an invitation to faithfulness. There's a difference between standing still in fear and being still in trust. The first is rooted in anxiety. The second is anchored in peace. Being still in trust doesn't mean you do nothing. It means you do what is yours to do without trying to control what isn't. You take the next right step. You keep your heart clean. You stay generous. You continue becoming. That's the power of delay. It invites you to a deeper kind of obedience, the kind that doesn't perform for attention, but endures for purpose. Delay is holy ground when you know who's standing with you in it. So if you're in a waiting season right now, don't despise it, don't waste it, and don't rush it. Look for the presence of God in it. Ask what He's building in you that couldn't be built any other way. Let the waiting stretch you, but not break you. Let it soften your heart, not harden your hope. Even now, He is weaving things together behind the scenes, lining up what you can't see, preparing you for rooms you haven't entered, conversations you haven't had, doors you haven't even knocked on. He sees what's ahead, and He knows what it will require from you. If it's taking longer than expected, maybe it's because the destination demands a stronger version of who you are today. Not a different person, just a deeper one. And when it finally arrives, when the breakthrough comes or the answer unfolds, you'll recognize the wisdom in the wait. You'll see how much you've grown, how deeply you've learned to rely on God, how steady your soul became, not because of what happened, but because of who held you through it. You may not feel like progress is happening, but trust this. The waiting season isn't a pause in your purpose. It's part of it. God doesn't waste time, and He certainly doesn't waste you. So stay rooted, stay open, stay soft-hearted even when the days stretch longer than you wanted them to. Because what looks like delay just might be design, and design, when it comes from the hand of the Creator, is never without beauty. Keep going. Even slow steps in the right direction are still steps of faith, and one day, sooner than you think, you'll look back and see that you were never waiting in vain. You were waiting in purpose, and the God who writes your story knows exactly when the next chapter begins. Your calling is unique, so stop running their race. When you try to live someone else's life, you miss the voice of God calling you into your own. That pull to compare, to conform, to match pace with people who were never meant to walk beside you, it's exhausting. And it's also empty. Because you weren't made to copy. You were made to carry something that no one else can bring to the world but you. Adam Grant once said, "Originals aren't born. They're forged when people dare to live out what makes them different." That's a powerful truth in a world obsessed with imitation. Every scroll invites you to become a little more like them and a little less like the one God created. And before long, you lose the clarity of your own voice under the noise of trying to match someone else's. But God never called you to blend in. He called you to belong, to Him, to your story, to your place in His design. That calling doesn't come with a blueprint you can borrow from someone else. It comes from within. It's nurtured in stillness. It's confirmed in Scripture. It's revealed in obedience, and it cannot be rushed or replicated. Jeremiah 1:5 reminds us of this unshakable truth. "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." You were never an accident. You were never an afterthought. You were imagined, loved, and designed with eternal intentionality. The moment you try to fit yourself into someone else's calling, you start shrinking. Not because your worth decreases, but because your heart starts bending under a weight it wasn't built to carry. Their path was never shaped for your feet. And this is where it gets dangerous. When you run someone else's race, your soul begins to ache, not just from exhaustion, but from disconnection. You know deep down you're meant for something different, something sacred. And no amount of external success will silence the longing that only obedience to your unique calling can satisfy. Even the Apostle Paul knew the importance of running the race marked out for each of us. In 1 Corinthians 9:24, he writes, "Run in such a way as to win the prize." He wasn't talking about beating others. He was talking about being faithful to your lane. The prize isn't applause, it's alignment. The reward is not comparison, it's completion. Finishing the work God gave you to do. The enemy of your soul doesn't need to destroy you to derail you. He just needs to distract you long enough that you forget what you were called to become. Distraction is often subtle. It doesn't always look like sin. Sometimes it looks like admiration turned into envy, inspiration turned into insecurity, or mentorship twisted into mimicry. When you start copying someone else's steps, you may still look successful, but inwardly, your peace begins to fray because peace doesn't come from performance. It comes from purpose. You don't have to shine the way they do. You don't have to speak the way they do. You don't need their timing, their gifting, their story. Yours was written in heaven, and heaven makes no mistakes. That doesn't mean the path will be easy. In fact, embracing your unique calling is often lonelier than following the crowd. It may cost you popularity. It may cost you comfort. It may mean walking away from what feels safe in order to chase what feels sacred. But in doing so, you make room for something the world desperately needs, an original who knows they are called by God. So how do you know what your calling is? You don't always know it in full, but you begin to sense it in the small nudges, the things that make your heart come alive, the burdens that break your heart in a way you can't ignore, the gifts that have always quietly followed you even when you doubted their worth. Your calling often looks like the thing you're afraid to admit you care about because you think it's too late, too small, too strange, or too uncertain. But God's call is rarely loud, it's often quiet. It's a whisper beneath the noise. It grows stronger when you obey, even in confusion. It sharpens when you act, even in weakness. And here's something beautiful. Your calling isn't about you being extraordinary. It's about God doing something eternal through your ordinary faithfulness. When you stop measuring your calling against someone else's, you make space for depth over speed, for trust over trend, for eternal fruit over temporary fame. Let go of the pressure to prove yourself. Let go of the fear that you've missed it. Let go of the need to validate your calling by comparing it to others. Start where you are, with what you have, as who you are. Don't shrink to fit someone else's dream. Don't twist yourself into shapes that were never meant to hold your soul. Don't silence the voice inside that knows you were made for more than matching pace. You were made to walk in divine direction. Originality is not arrogance, it's stewardship. And when you steward your uniqueness with humility, you don't just grow, you flourish. Because now, instead of pouring your energy into pretending, you're pouring it into becoming. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs the version of you that God handcrafted. The one who prays in private, who shows up when it's hard, who forgives when it hurts, who creates even when no one claps, who walks slow if that's the pace grace is offering. You don't have to outshine them. You don't have to outperform them. You just need to outfaith your fear and keep walking. There will be seasons when your path makes no sense to others. Let it be. There will be seasons when your obedience looks like obscurity. Keep going. There will be seasons when no one applauds you. Heaven is still watching. You're not behind because your path looks different. You're becoming because your path looks like Jesus. And Jesus never hurried. He never compared. He never copied. He walked in quiet power, in obedience, in rhythm with the Father's will. If that was enough for him, it's enough for you too. There is more peace in walking slow in the right direction than in running fast on the wrong road. Trust that your calling may not always be loud, but it will be lasting. Trust that what feels small may still be sacred. Trust that what the world overlooks, God treasures. And above all, trust that your calling doesn't begin when others see it. It begins the moment you start walking in it. You don't have to advertise it. You don't have to announce it. You just have to live it faithfully, quietly, courageously. That is how legacies are built. That is how God works through you, one obedient step at a time. So today, take a breath, come back to center, shake off the need to compare. And remember this, the road is already paved for your feet, not theirs. Walk it with confidence, walk it with wonder, walk it with reverence for the one who made it just for you. Walk the road God gave you and walk it with your head held high. The road ahead may not be easy, but it is yours. And when something has been designed specifically for you by the hands of God, no one else can walk it for you, and no one else can take it from you. It's natural to feel uncertain. Life can feel like a foggy trail with only the next few steps visible. But the lack of clarity doesn't mean the absence of purpose. It simply means the journey requires trust, not just direction. There's a quote from John Mason that speaks into this moment. You were born an original, don't die a copy. And walking with your head held high doesn't mean arrogance. It means alignment. It means owning the truth that God Himself formed you with intention and is walking with you still. When you walk the road He gave you, you stop needing to explain your pace to anyone else. You don't measure your progress by someone else's approval. You don't shrink your dreams down to fit someone else's comfort level. You don't wait to be understood to start being obedient. You simply keep walking. Not because it's glamorous, not because it's guaranteed, but because the one who called you is faithful, and that's all the assurance your soul needs. Proverbs 3:5 reminds us to trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. And that becomes a daily choice, to lean not on numbers or metrics or milestones, but on the God who sees the end from the beginning and knows exactly what your journey will require. There are moments when you will be tempted to give up, when your efforts will seem invisible and your hope will wear thin. But that's where courage grows, in the soil of persistence. The road you're on was not designed to make you famous. It was shaped to make you faithful. Sometimes the road is winding, sometimes it's uphill, sometimes it feels like no one else is walking in the same direction. But Hebrews 12:1 encourages us to run with endurance the race that is set before us. Not someone else's race, ours. The one God specifically prepared for each of us. Your path may not come with a stage, but it comes with peace. It may not always be celebrated, but it is sacred. And it's not just about where you're going, it's about who you become along the way. When you walk with your head held high, you're not pretending to be strong. You're walking in the quiet confidence that you're not walking alone. You're walking with the God who sees you, strengthens you, and sustains you, even when no one else understands the weight you're carrying. Sometimes obedience looks like showing up to the same small assignment over and over again without recognition. Sometimes it looks like turning down opportunities that look good because they don't align with what God asked you to do. Sometimes it's standing in grace when people misunderstand your motives or mislabel your journey. But walking the road God gave you with your head held high means you no longer live for approval. You live for alignment. Because it's better to walk slowly in your own lane with God than to sprint in someone else's direction without Him. Every step of faith leaves a footprint of light for someone else to follow. Every time you choose purpose over pressure, you push back against the darkness of comparison, competition, and self-doubt. Every time you move forward in humility and hope, you're building a legacy, not a legacy of platform, but a legacy of peace, not a legacy of being known, but of being faithful. let that be enough. Let faithfulness become your highest ambition. Let trust become your pace. Let purpose, not pressure, be what guides your decisions. When your head is high, not from pride, but from purpose, everything shifts. You stop hustling for validation. You stop striving to be seen. You stop begging the world to notice you. Instead, you walk confident, clear, covered in grace. The world may not always cheer for a life lived quietly in obedience, but heaven does. The applause you've been waiting for isn't on social media. It's in the heart of God, who sees every small act of courage, every quiet act of love, every honest moment of surrender and smiles. The weight you carry when you stay true to your road is real, but so is the joy. You were never meant to carry the weight of someone else's calling. You were never meant to outrun someone else to feel worthy. You were simply meant to walk with God, with humility, with courage. And when you walk that road day after day, even when it's lonely or slow, something beautiful happens. Your soul grows lighter. Your peace grows deeper. Your life starts to align with something bigger than achievement. It begins to reflect the one who created you. You may not always see the impact, but impact is not always immediate. Sometimes it's generational. Sometimes it's eternal. And that's the kind of legacy worth walking toward. So hold your head high, not because you figured it all out, but because you know who walks with you. Not because you have all the answers, but because you trust the one who does. Not because you're impressive, but because he is faithful. And in the end, when your journey winds to its final turn, may you be able to look back, not with regret, but with reverence. Because you didn't copy, you didn't chase, you didn't fold, you walked. You walked the road God gave you, and that was enough. So if you've been wondering whether your quiet steps still count, if your slow progress still matters, let this be your reminder. You don't have to catch up to anyone. You just have to keep walking with God. Your path is sacred, your pace is personal, and your purpose is still unfolding. Lift your eyes, walk forward, trust the road He gave you. He's not asking you to run faster, He's inviting you to walk faithfully. That's where peace is. That's where purpose lives. That's where your soul begins to breathe again. And that's where you belong, always.